Hello everyone and welcome to SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guest, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you do subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. I'm delighted to be joined today by Pip Plah, Head of Sovereign Cloud, SAP UK, and Chris Soden, Head of UK Delivery, SAP Sovereign Cloud Services. So, welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
Thank you, Craig, for the welcome.
You're more than welcome. It's great to have you because in today's episode, we're going to be discussing SAP Sovereign Cloud. If you didn't catch on to that from the titles of the two gentlemen I'm speaking to, but we're going to look at what it is, who it's aimed at and why. But just before we get into that, I'd just like to ask you, which foreign language would you like to learn and why? So while you have a little think about that, mine's Spanish, and really, I'm not very good with languages. I'm one that kind of gone through life with a little bit of kind of the main things to get by. But my daughter-in-law's from Peru, so I think you're Spanish, so I can converse a lot with that side of the family. But also, it's very, very rapid. So getting to understand that, I think, is a challenge. So, Chris.
It's a very good question, and I am also very bad at languages. I always have been, so it's a good question. I would say Portuguese, and the reason why that is my wife and I have a dream that obviously when we've earned enough money that we're going to move to Portugal. Wow. I think obviously it would be, beneficial to actually learn the language if we're going to move there.
That will be a plus point, won't it? Yeah. Firstly, as long as you can order a couple of beers, that's a first step, and then move on from there. Pip?
That's a great question, and actually very similar to Chris in many respects. As far as my chosen language would be Italian. My wife and I have been very fortunate. We've traveled through many countries around the world, and we have an affinity for Italy. Great food, beautiful scenery, phenomenal cars. But yeah, to live in Italy, we would have to speak the language. Same, I guess, for Chris and Chris's wife. So Italian would be the language I would like to learn. Oh,
excellent. And fantastic wine as well, of course.
Absolutely.
You shouldn't forget that. And Portuguese wine, very good. And very reasonably priced. Well, anyway, moving on, we can probably, if we start digressing into wine right now, we might never get back on topic. So just to get a start, gents, if you could, would you be able to introduce yourselves and your roles? So I can start with you, please, Chris.
Yes, my name is Chris Soden. I'm responsible for the Sovereign Cloud delivery here in the UK. I've been in position about just over three years now, but I've been with SAP, and my SAP kind of background goes back into the late 90s, having been a consultant for a small consultancy. I have also been a customer in previous life and was a member of the user group from a customer perspective. And I think I spoke a couple of times as a customer at some of the SIGs events.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic! Thanks, Pip.
Thank you, Craig. So I guess my role is firstly very closely aligned to working with Chris and his team from an SAP UK perspective, and I think that's probably a bit of a distinction. So Chris is very much has responsibility for the operational capability and delivery for how the Sovereign Cloud is built, how it's delivered, how we maintain it, how it's run. And I think we'll get on to probably that a little bit later on in this podcast. But my additional or my other responsibilities are then to ensure that I work with our MD office, with Layla and her leadership team, with our sales managers, our first level sales managers, their respective teams, with the advisory teams, with our pre-sales team. So anyone who is interested, involved with, engaging with Sovereign Cloud, including our partner organization and through our partners, I kind of span into those areas. That doesn't mean I do it all by myself. It means I'm very fortunate to work with some amazing colleagues within SAP UK who allow all of us to then collectively as one team cover all the bases needed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you both for that. And if I could just stay with you, Pip, if I may, can you explain what Sovereign Cloud is, and I suppose why Sovereign Cloud more generally have become such a hot topic of conversation recently?
SAP have a history spanning 20 plus years of working with customers in public services and highly regulated industries. And that starts with the work NS2 have done in the US, but also advanced secure support across Europe, working with government entities, different departments, defense organizations. So it's not, whilst Sovereign Cloud itself is new, from an SAP perspective, actually working in those industries isn't. I think since COVID, we've seen a huge increase in the number of cyber attacks. Depending on which analyst report you've read, it's 400%, or it could be 500% or 600%. And so if we think about the high-profile attacks that we're all aware of recently, the defense sector, retail sector, automotive sector, travel, healthcare, and I think even today there was something in the press about a nursery being attacked, which is quite frankly shocking. We see that it doesn't matter which industry you're in, what type of business you're doing. If someone can access your information or information about your business or the people using your business through a vulnerability, they will. And this is where I think Sovereign Cloud absolutely is the right solution at the right time. So building on those 20 years of experience, SAP have now developed a cloud solution which sits on AWS as a hyperscaler, but is absolutely locked down to be geo-ring-fenced inside the UK. And what that means is, whereas our commercial cloud solutions are supported, managed, operated globally, in the case of the Sovereign Cloud, that data, the physical premises from where we operate, the personnel, all of the technical controls and the legal elements around Sovereign Cloud remain within the UK. What that means for any of our customers or any of our customers who want to move to a sovereign platform, they know who is touching their data in terms of UK SC cleared personnel. They know where it's going to be located in the case of the UK data center location. They know the legal entity who they're operating with, SAP UK, operating on UK and UK law, and also where the technical control is. So when we talk about technical control, and I think Chris will expand on this later on, the fact that all of that data which is generated, whether it's log information or whether it's usage information or any of those other things, that also remains within the UK. So in a nutshell, anything on the Sovereign Cloud stays within the UK. Chris's team operate it, manage it, run it, deliver it. Anything on a public cloud, commercial cloud, is around the world.
Oh, thank you. So, Chris, I'm not sure whether you have anything to add to that at all, because Pip mentioned there about obviously where the data resides, that element of reducing cyber attack vectors, etc. And is there, so when you would talk to an SAP customer and other kind of users of SAP, they will understand the public cloud models, the standard models of cloud, etc. Is there any other ways that Sovereign Cloud differs?
Well, it's an interesting question. So when we do talk with our customers about the need for Sovereign Cloud for them as a customer, I think that's the first thing that we want to try and understand, because Sovereign Cloud isn't always the answer. The answer could be commercial cloud. It depends on what their risk appetite is or what their legal requirements from a certification, classification of data, etc. So because we have customers that are not just either public sector or within A&D space necessarily, it's it's having those initial conversations to gauge, because as you can imagine, sovereign cloud, there is an associated cost to that, and if the customer doesn't need to spend that, then that's better for them, and that's why we try and have those conversations. So it's getting that understanding first before we kind of get into the technical perspective of that. But as Pip said, it's about, first and foremost, ensuring that the data is secure. Not to say that the commercial cloud is not secure, but there's certain requirements, keeping the data in the UK, and obviously the people that manage it, so to speak. But it's more than just that. It's all about the technologies that sits behind that. So when we look at our commercial cloud, the data could be, say, for most UK customers, we could say that their data probably resides in Frankfurt or another European country, typically. But some of the tooling and the people that support it could be from anywhere. So Sovereign Cloud is quite unique in the sense that the team that we have here in the UK is located in the UK. They are UK residents, and they are security cleared to SC level. Not only that all the tooling that we have as well is also kept on sovereign soil. So, for instance, if you look at SAP for me as a good example, that's a global tool, and it pulls data from customer systems into the global tool, and then allows the customer to look at that. That's not available, or we don't use that global tool. So we provide the customer with the same information, but in different means. Sometimes that currently means manually providing it, but then we're building out the portfolio of our solutions and toolings to be able to provide that information in a secure way. So it's a bit of an extension. So there are certain things to differentiate what Sovereign Cloud is to commercial cloud, but probably to switch it round is actually we're trying to provide the services that replicates the commercial cloud, because that's what our customers want. They want the functionality that a cloud environment can provide them, but they just need it in a secure way. So from a customer's perspective, what we are striving to deliver them is a service that replicates exactly what they would do on a commercial side. So that's all of the functionality, all of the products. We're not quite there yet, so still, even though we've been with NS2 for the last 20 years providing secure services, some of these new technologies take time to go through what we would call hardening. So it goes to an extra level of analysis to see if there's specific things that we don't want to activate because it might increase the risk. So those are the type of things that we go through. But inevitably, we want to give them the whole suite of products eventually. But so if we look at some of the newer technology, BDC, obviously AI. If you look at how AI is delivered, it's large language models, again, that are hosted somewhere else. So we need to find a technical solution to be able to do that in a sovereign environment. I could talk about the technical side of it for ages, and but generally that's it at a very high level.
So I assume then, obviously, when we talk about that sovereign environment, that sovereign cloud, etc., that is the guarantee that everything, your data, the people accessing it, etc., are in your sovereign territory.
Yes, absolutely. So it's all about not just the data residency, but who supports it, and the tooling that supports it, and the telemetry and everything that wraps around it. It's all on sovereign soil. So, and that's where we probably differentiate ourselves with other products, because everything is sovereign, not just the data and just not the people. It's the whole telemetry and the control planes that we put in place to ensure the sovereignty of the solution.
Wow, so I can assume then that SAP's had quite a lot of hoops that you've had to jump through to get that sovereign stamp.
Well, yes, and this is where it's quite an interesting conversation, because when we talk about sovereignty, and it means different things to different people from different industries and different organisations. So there are certain standards that we would adhere to. So what we have done is we take our standard solutions and all the certifications and security requirements that we would need, obviously from a large software provider, and then we build on that. So as an example, the Sovereign Cloud Services is ISO 27001 certified. We've got SOC 2 Type 2 reports. We're Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus certified. We are in the process of going through the CSA STAR certification, which aligns to kind of NATO regulations. And we're constantly looking at what other requirements that our customers are asking us for to give them the comfort that this solution is fit for purpose. And it's not just us, obviously, saying, yes, it's sovereign, trust us. It's external bodies that are coming in, doing those reviews, getting those certifications and putting those up on our trust centre.
Okay, thank you.
Experience the power of SAP Sovereign Cloud, built on AWS's Sovereign by Design architecture. It is designed to meet the highest standards of data residency, security, and compliance within the UK, making it the definitive choice for public sector organisations, defence contractors, utilities, and other highly regulated industries. The offering initially includes SAP Cloud ERP Private, SAP SuccessFactors HCM, SAP Business Technology Platform, SAP Analytics Cloud, Fieldglass, and Digital Supply Chain, including IBP. For innovation without compromise, choose SAP Sovereign Cloud, powered by AWS.
And so from that perspective then, from what you were talking about earlier around regulated industries, aerospace and defence, government, local authorities, public organisations who need a secure way of working. We've also talked about, that residency and, again, the security of data. But what are you finding are the main drivers for organisations choosing sovereign cloud? Is it mostly about regulation, security, or customer trust, or all of the above and more?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. It's a great question, and it is all of the above and more. I think I'd first say one thing. All of SAP's solutions are built securely, so it's not a case of our commercial products are not secure, just to be completely clear about that. Sovereign Cloud, of course, then ratchets that up by a number of levels. And absolutely, regulations are evolving. And there is, of course, a need for customers in those regulated industries to adhere to the legislations they must operate under. I briefly mentioned the increase in those cybersecurity attacks and threats, which are expanding at a fast rate. Yeah, I think the numbers, depending on which analyst report you've read, it's anywhere between 400% and above since COVID times. And that means with all of those attacks, plus the ongoing challenges the global economy are facing, businesses are now considering how do they maintain their operational capability in such difficult times. And part of that is driven by, of course, the regulation, which is kind of overarching. But how do I ensure that in the event of an attack or in the event of something happening globally, I have the ability to recover? So national control and autonomy over their data, I think, is one of those driving principles. But we always, as Chris said, our starting point is, as well as understanding what the functional requirement is. So, are you going through HR transformation? Are you going through finance transformation? Are you moving from on-prem into a cloud environment to take agility? We always, in parallel, and sometimes even before, depending on the sector, need to understand what the security posture of the customer is, because that's really what defines how they need to act or how they need to handle, manage, store, process their data. So, as you said, all of those things and some more. And I think, if we sit down in a year's time and have this conversation again, there's probably going to be another half a dozen things or more to add to that list.
I'm sure there will be, maybe not even a year. But
yeah.
So for organisations kind of already running with hyperscalers like, I suppose, Google Cloud, AWS, Microsoft Azure, where does Sovereign Cloud fit within their estate, or is it an alternative, or actually does it complement the other areas?
So I think if we look at it, even in a highly regulated industry, there will be parts of a business where data is absolutely classified, and we can talk about all the way up to top secret. Of course, Sovereign Cloud is official, sensitive only. But there'll be other parts where they may not have to have their data classified. So if I'm procuring something, as an example, if I'm doing my expenses, that may not have to be classified. So that could potentially run in a standard's the wrong word, in a commercial cloud environment. But where I have got data, coming back to this level of criticality and classification and the need to comply with legislation and all those other things. And that defines that I have to operate with data being inside the country with certain passport holders of certain nationalities. Then sovereign clouds, commercial clouds, absolutely, we'd expect those to coexist. There'll be certain environments, coming back to secret, top secret, where that wouldn't necessarily be possible, depending on the data. But I wouldn't necessarily think that you will have wall-to-wall sovereign cloud. But Chris may have a different view on that.
No, it's exactly right. And if we look at the customers that we have today, we've got examples of customers that are just on Sovereign Cloud, and some that are a hybrid approach. As Pip said, it's certain products that don't require, or the level of classification that would mean that they would be into a Sovereign Cloud, and they can coexist. So, for instance, an S4 to a Concur solution, one being on Sovereign Cloud, one being on the commercial cloud, that's absolutely fine and acceptable. But again, it's down to the customer's choice, and we need to make sure that when customers are making those decisions, that they're informed and we advise as much as possible. But yeah, we know that each individual customer is unique, and they will all have a specific request. And we will take those on board, and we will try and come up with the best solution for them.
Thank you. And while we're on customers, are you able to share examples of any organisations currently utilising or planning to utilise Sovereign Cloud?
Well, as you can imagine, Craig, the customers that tend to need a sovereign environment don't necessarily want to advertise that they are using a sovereign environment. So it's always really very difficult to publicly say which customers we are working on. What we can say is we have multiple customers already signed up to Sovereign Cloud. And from a global perspective, we do have one referenceable customer in our Sovereign Cloud in Australia. So that's the Toll Group that provides services to, I think, the Australian DoD. So we do have a reference customer there.
Okay. Well, it was worth an ask. I tried. So just I suppose there's been... I think, can I call it a flurry? Yeah, I will call it a flurry. A flurry of announcements lately over the past several weeks around sovereign cloud, and we've heard a lot about it in the IT press, etc. And I think SAP recently announced a sovereign cloud on-site model. Are you able at a high level to give us an inkling of what that is and how it perhaps expands the existing sovereign cloud?
Yes, at a very high level. Yeah, as you said, it is hot off the press, literally. I think it's the last few weeks, and it is obviously a very new offering. I guess the reason why we've expanded the offering is to address some of the customers' demands around that top secret need. Clearly, sovereign cloud, in its current state, is there to meet up to official sensitive, but we know, and customers will ask us, well, what do we do with this part of our business that's operating at this level? So the sovereign cloud on site is to address that. So it is, at a high level, it's sovereign cloud, all the functionality that we deliver within the sovereign cloud. So from a product range right down to how it's subsequently delivered, with all the telemetry, the people, it will be the same. The difference is it will be at the customer's data center or a data center of their choice. We would then purchase the hardware, we install it into that data center, and then we run it for the customer. And typically that would be in an air-gapped environment or solution. So it is an extension, but it's more around the meeting of the requirements from the customer. So everything is pretty much the same, but it's just within an air-gapped in a data center of their choice. There'll be more information coming over future months when we can share that. But yes, early days.
Okay, fantastic.
But what it does kind of highlight is, again, with the announcements. We recently, or Christian recently announced a 20 billion, or well, depending on which press releases you look at, 20 to 22 billion euro investment in sovereign cloud over the next 10 years. So it just shows how much SAP sees the need from our customers to give them offerings in this area.
Thank you. And Pip, you mentioned a couple of times the word regulations, and regulatory's come up a few times. Do you see regulators perhaps in the UK or EU moving perhaps towards mandating sovereign cloud for certain sectors or industries?
Pardon me. So I think let's talk about the UK, because I can't comment on what's happening in Europe as such. I think that's going to be highly dependent upon a number of factors. One of the factors will be about the ongoing changes and strengthening of data protection laws and data processing laws. I think it also depends on the global climate, which we're seeing at the moment, the intensification of things around the world. Yeah, that there's the increased tensions in Asia Pacific. Certain governments are implementing protectionary policies for the benefit of their nation states. The continued annexation of the Ukraine, and the list goes on. So I think if things don't intensify, and let's all hope and pray that they don't, then no, I don't think it will be mandatory in the sense of everyone must in the UK have a sovereign solution. As Chris has said, it's based upon what the customer needs, what their security posture is based upon a particular regulation or a legislation and the industry they're in. I think what we will see, though, is certainly in the immediate term, is that whilst we do see these tensions around the world, and there doesn't seem to be a softening in what we're seeing, and that's just my perception that we're not seeing a softening of things, and things seem to be intensifying, then these various different regulations and bills and the nations will take and continue to increase the control they want to put onto those elements of their industries and industry sectors, businesses, which are highly needed in order for the country to continue to run should something critical happen. So it's a bit of a long-winded and cack-handed answer, really, but I think it's one of those where it won't be mandatory for everyone. I don't think it'll be mandatory at all unless something significant happens. And let's all hope and pray that it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I suppose it gives the opportunity. I've spoken to many customers over the years and about the move to the cloud, and some are like, we just can't go to the cloud. We want our data here, and this is giving them the opportunity to join the journey to the cloud.
Absolutely. I mean, Chris touched on it a little bit back when he talked about the fact that Christian Klein, our Chief Executive Officer, and our Managing Board approved an additional 20 billion euros of expenditure into the sovereign development of our sovereign solution, and that's expansion into new territories and countries, but also into new parts of the portfolio with Sovereign Cloud on site. And what that means is now that customers who were on premise and have been try to get onto some of these new innovations and try to use the agility and the flexibility the cloud brings them, but haven't been able to, now have an opportunity to move that way. So whether it's at the official sensitive level by being on Sovereign Cloud, whether it's I've got a workload classified at a high level, secret or top secret, moving into Sovereign Cloud on site, but it gives them that ability to then take back control. And we've all seen this. We've all been in the SAP arena for so many years. Chris, as he says, goes back 20, 25 plus years. I've been in it probably about the same amount of time, maybe a little bit more. But over the years, whilst these really complex on-prem hybrid architectures have been developed with really different types of architectures and coding standards, that leads to these open attack vectors or multiple attack vectors, not open, but multiple attack vectors. And then Sovereign Cloud will give those customers who have been stuck the opportunity to now move into an environment on the cloud, leveraging those new innovations and remaining secure. So I think it's definitely going to open up for some of those customers more opportunity than not.
Thanks for that. And I suppose as we come to a close now, looking ahead, do you see Sovereign Cloud perhaps becoming the default in certain regions or industries?
I don't think so. I think what we as SAP are trying to do is give customers the choice. And I think with our commercial offering, the Sovereign Cloud offering, and the new Sovereign Cloud on site, then it does allow customers to make that choice. So unless a particular government categorically demands that customers need to go onto a sovereign solution, I don't see it being the standard offering from us. Yeah. Certainly.
And I agree, Chris. I think our customers will always have the ability to select the solution they need that meets their business requirement. And that being said, that gives them the option of choosing from our commercial cloud products a sovereign cloud solution if they have regulated data, and as I think Chris touched on with Sovereign Cloud on site, the ability to operate with top secret data as well, with the Sovereign Cloud on site solution being implemented at their premises or at the premises of a chosen partner.
Thank you. Chris, Pip, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, your insights. I really I'm glad you were able to join us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig.
And to our listeners, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. Please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and stay secure.